Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. In the United States, 877 people have died from COVID-19 while over 67,000 infected in the last 24 hours. The country's death toll has crossed 140,000 with over 3.7 million infections. In Pakistan, 31 people have died overnight, taking the death toll to nearly 5,600 with over 265,000 cases. The global death toll from the coronavirus has passed 605,000 with more than 14.4 million infections. Kabul claims the Taliban have killed 12 Afghan troops in attacks in northern Kunduz and northwest Badghis province. A spokesperson to Kunduz governor says 8 security personnel were killed in an attack on a post on Kunduz-Aliabad district highway. Meanwhile, Badghis governor's spokesperson said 4 soldiers were killed in clashes with the Taliban. Claiming responsibility for Kunduz attack, Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the group also destroyed 2 tanks of the Afghan forces. Wrangling EU leaders will meet again today after they failed to agree on $2 trillion COVID-19 recovery fund and 7-year budget. The summit was initially scheduled for just 2 days but has been pushed to 4th day due to disagreements over the fund size and mode of distribution. News in detail after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We start our bulletin from the United States, where 877 people have died from COVID-19, while over 67,000 infected in the last 24 hours. The country's death toll has crossed 140,000 with over 3.7 million infections. The global death toll from the new coronavirus has passed 605,000 with more than 14.4 million infections. More about this in this report.
Governments around the world are eyeing tougher steps to fight COVID-19 as its second wave rages across the world. Since late June, the US has seen a resurgence in new cases, and now, 5 weeks later, America is losing about 5,000 people to the virus every week. In Brazil, 716 more have died, increasing the toll to over 79,000 with nearly 2.1 million cases. Despite that, just after recovering from the virus, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro joined hundreds of supporters outside his residence, flogging global guidelines. In many parts of the world, ignoring stay-at-home calls, people continue to flay guidelines, risking community transmission.
Some beaches, they're keeping the distance. The other restaurant, it was full. So I think everybody's doing what they want. And I think the government's risking by putting everything in the control of the people. I think they need to take stricter measures, make it safe, make the virus go away, and then properly open them.
In Hong Kong, banks have closed their branches across the city-state, edging towards another round of lockdowns after a virus spike. But in China, Beijing has announced to lower its emergency response to COVID-19 from level 2 to level 3.
The risk of the spreading virus to other parts from Beijing is relatively low, and the epidemic situation is stable and under control. The conditions are in place to lower the response level from 2 to 3.
More than 5,000 have died in Africa's hardest-hit country, South Africa, with tens of thousands contracting the disease every day.
Pakistan has reported 31 deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the total to nearly 6,000. The Health Ministry says 1,587 new cases were reported overnight as the tally crossed 265,000. Officials said over 205,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. The ministry said there are now over 53,000 active cases in the country, among which 1,552 are in critical condition. Sindh is the worst hit province with over 113,000 infections, while Punjab has reported over 90,000 cases. Kabul claims the Taliban have killed 12 Afghan troops in attacks in northern Kunduz and northwest Badghis province. A spokesperson to Kunduz governor says 8 security personnel were killed in an attack on a post on Kunduz-Aliabad district highway. He said 2 others were wounded in the raid, while the Taliban also suffered casualties. Meanwhile, Badghis governor's spokesperson said 4 soldiers were killed in clashes with the Taliban, claiming responsibility for Kunduz attack. Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the group also destroyed 2 tanks of the Afghan forces. Now, wrangling EU leaders will meet again today after they failed to agree on a $2 trillion COVID-19 recovery fund and 7-year budget. The summit was initially scheduled for just 2 days, but has been pushed to 4th day due to disagreement over the fund size and mode of distribution. After the adjournment of the talks was announced, both Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said progress was being made. Rutte said talks had been close to failing, but European Council President Charles new compromise May's proposals bearing fruit. With pandemic dealing Europe its worst economic shock since World War II, EU leaders are expected to reach an agreement to jumpstart economies. Iraq says 4 ISIS militants and 2 paramilitary Hasht Shabi members have been killed in 2 attacks in Saladin province. In a statement, the government-backed Hasht Shabi forces said the ISIS fighters were killed in an operation in Samara city. Meanwhile, a roadside bomb exploded on a Hasht Shabi vehicle during anti-ISIS operation in the Al Jazeera area. The statement said the explosion destroyed the vehicle and killed 2 members and wounded 4 others aboard. Now, Turkey says it has killed 4 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in airstrikes during Operation Claw Tiger in northern Iraq. The National Defense Ministry said the military carried out operations backed by air power in Haftanin region. The ministry said Turkey will continue to destroy weapons caches and shelters used by the terrorists. It said over 400 Kurdish militants have been killed in northern Iraq over the past 5 months. State media said PKK militants often use northern Iraq to plan cross-border terrorist attacks in Turkey. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. Moving on, Jordan says the Israeli annexation of Palestinian territories will have catastrophic repercussions on efforts to achieve peace in the region. In a statement, Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi said the annexation will undermine the hopes of a 2-state solution to the conflict. Talking about the Libyan crisis, Safadi underlined Jordan's support for all efforts to reach a political solution to end the conflict. He said Jordan supports all UN resolutions about reaching a settlement by Libyans themselves. Safadi said the outcomes of the Berlin Conference and the Cairo Declaration should be implemented in the country. Moving on, Nigeria says it has killed 8 senior members of Boko Haram in northeastern Borno province. Defense Ministry spokesman John said an airstrike targeted Boko Haram in the Goski village. The spokesperson said numerous shelters used by the Boko Haram and logistics materials were also destroyed during the operation. Boko Haram launched a terrorist campaign in northeastern Nigeria in 2009, but later spread to neighboring Niger, Chad and Cameroon. The United Nations says more than 30,000 people have been killed and nearly 3 million displaced in a decade of Boko Haram's violence. Beijing says it will respond to any attempts by the UK to sanction Chinese officials following the imposition of a security law in Hong Kong. In an interview, China's envoy to the UK, Liu Xiaoming, said London should chart its own foreign policy rather than dance to the tune of Washington. He said the US imposed sanctions on Chinese officials and Beijing reciprocated the move. Earlier, Britain slapped curbs to target individuals over alleged human rights abuses. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said he would brief the Parliament to outline further measures on Hong Kong and China. Tensions between London and Beijing are rising over a host of issues, including Hong Kong and Huawei. US superstar rapper Kanye West has officially launched his campaign for the 2020 presidential election. The 43-year-old is running as a candidate for his self-styled birthday party. Addressing an unorthodox rally in Charleston, South Carolina, the rapper shared what appeared to be off-the-cuff policy decisions. Fans have questioned whether Kane's last-minute bid for the White House is actually a promotional stunt. A now deleted tweet sent from West's account appearing to show the song list for a new album added to the speculation. West announced his candidacy on July 4th but has already missed the deadline to qualify for the ballot in several states. He needs to collect enough signatures to appear on the ballot in a number of others. In the United States, organizers of the national worker strike say thousands plan of walking off jobs in 24 cities to protest racism and economic inequality today. The organizer of Strike for Black Lives says the movement is building a country where Black lives matter in every aspect of society, including the workplace. The chief organizer, Ashley Henderson, said labor unions, along with social and racial justice organizations, will participate in a range of planned actions. She said participants will either picket during a lunch break or observe moments of silence where work stoppages are not possible for a full day. Strikers demand sweeping actions by corporates and government to end racism and economic equality for Black and Hispanic workers. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, in India, violent protests have erupted in West Bengal after the gang rape and murder of a teenager. Angry demonstrators burnt police vehicles and passenger buses after the body of a 17-year-old girl was found near a field. Horrific gang rape incidents have rocked India over this year. In the latest episode, angry demonstrators chanted slogans against the police and demanded justice for the girl. Police fired tear gas and resorted to bait and charge to disperse the crowd who blocked the national highway. The government data shows that one woman reported a rape every 15 minutes on an average, with 34,000 rapes only in 2018. In India, at least 10 people have been killed by lightning strikes during a thunderstorm in 7 districts of Bihar. Officials said over 160 people have died due to lightning strikes in the state in the past 3 weeks. State Chief Minister Nitish Kumar appealed to people to remain vigilant and stay indoors during the bad weather. This comes as monsoon rains have battered India's northeastern state of Assam and displaced nearly 4 million people. Officials said the overflowing Brahmaputra River has damaged crops and triggered mudslides. They said dozens are still missing following rains. Floods following torrential monsoon rains in Bangladesh have marooned about 2.3 million people in 18 districts. Disaster Management Ministry said floodwater is still flowing above the danger mark at 22 points in different districts across the country. It said at least 8 people have been killed by floods, which have affected people of 523 unions. Meanwhile, crops worth over $40 million have also been damaged by the floods, and further losses on tens of thousands of farmers are feared. Agricultural Department officials said growers in 14 districts suffered the biggest losses as the floods submerged nearly 42,000 hectares of the land. Dhaka says it has opened over 8,000 centres in the district where at least 47,000 adults and nearly 13,000 children have taken shelter. Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdul Aziz has been admitted to the hospital in the capital city of Riyadh. The Saudi state media says the king is undergoing further medical checks after being diagnosed with gallbladder inflammation. 84-year-old Salman has ruled since 2015 and is the custodian of Islam's holiest sites. He spent more than 2.5 years as the Saudi Crown Prince and Deputy Premier before becoming the king. He also served as governor of the Riyadh region for more than 50 years. 34-year-old Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is next in line for the throne and serves as the kingdom's de facto ruler. The UAE has become the first Arab nation to launch a mission to Mars. The unmanned 200-day mission blasted off from Japan's Tanegashima Island, joining the US and China for similar attempts. It will separate from its H-2A rocket and begin the 200-day journey towards the Red Planet. The mission's approval came after weeks of heavy rain and postponements on July 15 and 17. UAE officials say the mission has cost $200 million. It aims to provide a complete picture of the Martian atmosphere for the first time, studying daily and seasonal changes. There are currently 8 active missions exploring Mars. Some orbit the planet and some have landed on its surface. After the success of drive-in cinemas during social distancing restrictions amid COVID-19, Paris turns the river scene into a float-in cinema. More about the streaming cinema in this report.
In Paris, film fans can now munch on their popcorn watching a movie while drifting over the River Seine. People aboard 38 electric boats were treated to a free showing of the 2018 French comedy Le Grand Bain. Each boat can seat up to 6 people who know each other. Others can watch from deck chairs as the screen floats over the Seine.
Super excited. It's a really unique opportunity. I've never seen anything like this in Paris, so super excited.
This is a part of the 6-week summer festival, Paris Plage. Organizers hope to hold similar showings during the course of the festival. Although cinemas have reopened in France, occupancy levels remain very low because of the COVID-19 protocols for social distancing. This serene summer fiesta's open sky cinema was thoroughly enjoyed by movie fans.
I really enjoy open-air cinema. It marks the beginning of the summer, and even if we are already in mid-July, for me it marks the beginning of the Persian adventures. I really enjoy the idea of boats associating the Seine River with a movie on water. I didn't want to miss this.
Paris Plage, a summer fiesta launched in 2002, creates artificial beaches on the banks of the Seine in central Paris and the Bassin de la Villette. It also offers sporting opportunities such as fencing, giant table football, and open-air gyms looking out over the Seine.
European stock markets are trading lower after EU leaders failed to agree on a multi-billion euro recovery fund, and budget investors' sentiments dampened as failure to reach a deal dented hopes of a revival of economic activity. London's FTSE 100 is trading nearly 1% lower. CAC 40 in Paris has lost 0.75%. Frankfurt's DAX is trading fractionally lower. In Asia, Shanghai Composite gained 3%, while Nikkei 225 closed marginally higher. Seoul's Kospi Index and Nikkei 225 closed marginally lower. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has lost over 0.5%. This was the 6th PGA Tour event since professional golf resumed in the United States after a 3-month shutdown. Now, and in football, Chelsea have beaten Manchester United by 3-1 in the semi-final of the FA Cup at Wembley Stadium. The Blues will now meet Arsenal in the final on 1st of August. The Red Devils ditched their usual FA Cup keeper Sergio Romero to keep faith with David De Gea. But the Spanish international produced 2 horrendous errors either side of half-time to give Chelsea 2 goals. De Gea flimsy attempts to stop Oliver Giroud's flick in first-half stoppage time gave Chelsea the lead. Harry Maguire's late own goal put an end to all hopes of a comeback for United. Football star Lionel Messi has won his 7th La Liga Golden Boot after scoring twice in Barcelona's win over Alaves on the final day. Playing at Mendizorroza Stadium, Barcelona concluded their season with a 5-0 victory. Messi finished on 25 goals, 4 clear of Real Madrid striker Karim Benzema. This is the first time La Liga's top scorer has managed fewer than 30 goals since Mallorca's Daniel Guiza 12 years ago. Barca next hosts Napoli in the Champions League last 16 second leg on 8th of August, having drawn 1-1 in Italy. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Take care.